time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, and happy summer, and happy 100th episode Voice of Indie podcast. I'm your host, Beem Weeks, and like I just said, this is the 100th episode. I should have put some trumpet music in, but I didn't. And with me, as usual, is my co-host, Mr. Stephen Gies. How are you doing tonight for this 100th episode, Mr. Gies?
I am just tingling, covered with goosebumps, and I've just cracked open a bottle of drinking water to celebrate.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Drinking water, too. All right.
100 episodes.
100 episodes, and we're going to start this one off. I'm going to read a quick tweet that's already out there for one of our loyal listeners, Mr. Wayne Greenholm. So happy to have him in the audience. He's been under the weather and battling some health issues, and he says, I am 32 episodes into my murder mystery Vela project and chugging to a climactic ending. I hope to upload the next episode tonight, making it available tomorrow. If murder investigations are your thing, check out In the Marsh. And you can go over to our feed on Twitter. That's just use the hashtag Fresh Ink Group and hit latest and scroll down, and you will find Verwayne's tweets here. And you can hit that link and find where he's got his book at, or his story. So go check it out and be a supportive participant.
A supportive participant. And glad you're feeling pretty decent these days, Wayne. Our Fresh Ink Group member, Dr. Helen Burrell, is still in the hospital as far as we know. We need to try to hunt down somebody who can give us some more information. We've been having to go through the doorman at the building where she lives in New York City in order to try to get some information. So we're keeping an eye on that, and best of luck to you, Helen. You got any more well wishes out there, Beam?
Well, no, but I want to remind everybody that we have a GoFundMe project for Dr. Helen as she's been in the hospital and whatnot, and she's accruing many medical expenses. So go over to our Facebook page, Fresh Ink Group LLC, on Facebook, and we have a link there where you can go if even if it's just a few bucks. Every little bit helps out. We're trying to help her. She's up there in age. She's in her upper 80s, so it's not like she can go out and work to try to come up with the money. So and she still does work when she's home. She works from home. She takes patients. She's was a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Psychologist, and of course she's an author.
And she's an author as well. Yes. So go over to Facebook LLC on our Fresh Ink Group LLC on Facebook and find the link for the GoFundMe page. Listeners, if you want to participate in tonight's show, like Verwayne has already done, you can do so by doing this.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest, or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
And over on Twitter, we do have a couple of notes. Robert G. Willis-Croft, Fresh Ink Group member, author, says he's not feeling well today, so he's going to take a little bit of a break and miss tonight's episode, maybe catch it in the archive later. And Joe Conjal says, congratulations on episode 100. And then he's posted some little party images here, emojis, and looking forward to Richard Bell tonight. As are we. So
and Verwayne says, Fresh Ink Group, thank you, Beam and Steven. I'm still a little sluggish, but I'm writing to keep my mind clean and clear. All right.
Yeah. Some people pay good money for sluggish.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was looking at the list. We got 23 books that are in the pipeline right now. I was thinking about maybe running through those, but we want to get to our guest today. So I'll just say we got a whole bunch of them coming, and we're looking at cracking out new releases about every week for the next 4 or 5 weeks, and then we got a whole bunch behind those. So keep tuned and subscribe to that newsletter. Keep up with what's going on. What about audiobooks, Beam?
audiobooks. I'm working on 2 of them right now. One of them's kind of a slow go because you're at the mercy of the voice artist, these temperamental artists. So Ellie Collins, Mad Max, and Sweet Sadie, that's coming along as the guy gets me these files. But Jenny Wong's Girl Wears Those Shoes, I was working on that this afternoon, and that's coming along. We are nearing the end on that. There's still a few more chapters to go in it, but we're getting close to that finish line. And the cool thing happened today. We do the special sound effects and music and things like that in these audiobooks. And there's this part where the voice artist, in the book, they're listening to a Teresa Tang song, and the author sings it. And as she's singing it, I'm trying to find music to go underneath it, and I found this piece of music, and I put it underneath it, and it's like almost perfect the way it lines up with the words. So it's kind of like she's singing along to this song, to this piece of instrumental music. And that's
so not the author, your voiceover artist is the one who's singing it, right?
Yeah. The author's waiting on this. The voice artist, she's singing this song, and I put the music underneath it, and it's one of those cool things when they match up, and it just falls right into place. I tried this in an earlier chapter, and it didn't work, so I had to do some other things to, make that stand out. But this one worked, so yay. If you want to keep up on other things, Fresh Ink Group, like the books that we have in the pipeline and these audio books, and this show, you want the link every morning for this show and find out, who's doing what, subscribe to our newsletter, and here's how you can do that.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of FreshInkGroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What? All right. An official
checked in on what's going on with our print sales, and a couple of days ago when I looked, we had The Rise and Fall of a Construction Giant and a couple of others on there that have been riding it for a while. In the last couple of days, those fell off. So what we have now is, in the number 1 slot, the hardcover edition of Mark Herndon's memoir, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip. Mark Herndon, as you know, spent nearly 3 decades as the drummer for the music group Alabama, which had 40-something number 1 hits, I believe.
Yeah.
He toured the world and is highly acclaimed. And I'll tell you, he lives in Alabama. And every once in a great while, I get to hang out with him and his wife, country music singer Leah Seawright. And we can't go anywhere without people recognizing them and mobbing us. So, I just sit there with my Sharpie waiting to give out autographs, but nobody ever asks.
You're that podcast guy, aren't you?
Yeah, that podcast guy. Number 2, and he doesn't get to hear it because he's taking a break tonight, but Robert G. Willis Croft's Operation Ivy Bells, a Mac McDowell mission, is in the number 2 slot. That's book number 1 in the Mac McDowell Mission series. There are 3 books out now. Ivy Bells, Arctic Sting is the 3rd one. That second one always bedevils me, the title. And then he's working on the 4th one now as well, too. So look for that. We'll be putting out a new video for it. Check out the video for all 3 books in the series over in the YouTube channel, Fresh Ink Group. And then in the 3rd slot, the softcover edition of Mark Herndon's memoir, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip. And then this is interesting. In the 4th slot, Mad Max and Sweet Sarah, which is one of the audiobooks that Beem is working on right now with actor Drew. What's his last? Ethan Drew, right. I'm trying to call him Drew Ethan, and it just didn't sound right. With actor Ethan Drew, who's got a movie coming out this fall that he's starring in with Christopher Lloyd and Corbin Bleu. So we're looking forward to trying to ride the coattails of some of that publicity. And then in the 5th slot, we've got There Must Be Something in the Water, Anthology of the 4th Generation, Descendants of Green Pond After the Emancipation, which is still going like gangbusters. So congratulations, people, on our top 5 best-selling print books this week.
Yeah, all right. Now, if you happen to miss an episode or there's one that you liked so much you want to hear again, or you're like Robert G. Williscroft, a little under the weather tonight so he can't listen, well, he can listen tomorrow in the archive. And here's how you find the archive.
If you miss a show, find us in the archive, in the Fresh Ink Group channel on YouTube, on Spotify, or under the podcast tab at freshinkgroup.com, beamweeks.com, and stephengs.com. On YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe.
All right.
Like.
Like. All right. So we are going to bring in our guest. Born in Chicago, and now this is Richard Bell. Born in Chicago and now living in small town northern Wisconsin, Richard Bell is the author of the children's book Life Seemed Good, but a collection of quirky short stories. He plays several instruments, including his favorite, bass guitar. He served in the U.S. Navy and worked in warehousing, delivery driving, and various desk jobs. He married a bit late at 39 and was devastated by her leukemia diagnosis 10 years later, followed by both losing their jobs. Writing became Richard's form of therapy, the result being his first children's book. And with that, welcome to the show, Richard.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, guys. I know there's no trumpet or fanfare, but how about this?
All right.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Musical intro.
You got a little keyboard or something sitting there?
Old piano.
Okay. Yeah.
If I could make two slight corrections.
Okay.
I'm not in northern Wisconsin. I'm in southern Wisconsin. And this is definitely not a children's book, but it's children's stories kind of designed for adults. I'd say the minimum ages would be like 14 or 15.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
All right. So with that out of the way, how about you tell us a little bit more about yourself since you're in southern Wisconsin. Where are you originally from? Where else have you lived? And go from there.
I'll bet you went from Chicago all the way around the world to wind up in southern Wisconsin.
That would be a circuitous route. I hope I said that right. But now we moved from Chicago to right near O'Hare Airport. And there were days when the jets were coming over, foggy days, we could hit one with a kite. But that'd probably be frowned upon. Frowned upon in certain circles. And then from there, of course, I joined the Navy and I did go around the world, at least Far East. Back again, got married, and my wife said, let's move to Wisconsin. That's a nice area. We got friends up there. So we did that. And we've been up here ever since. And we love it. And the best thing is we got good neighbors. Now, you could live in the worst place in the world, but if you got good neighbors, it's much easier to bear.
I agree. Good neighbors make you can live in the greatest place in the world, but if you got bad neighbors, it's, not so great.
Exactly.
So you're living out in the country or in the suburbs, or what's it look like when you look out the window?
It's smaller than a suburb, but there are houses around me that I told was not totally in the boonies. But it's a town of about 3,000 people.
Cool.
So we're right between Chicago and Milwaukee. So anytime I get ambitious, I could go to either one, hop on the freeway.
There you go.
All right.
So what kind of kid were you? Were you always into reading and writing, or is this something that piqued your interest later on?
A good question. My mom used to be a stenographer, so we had a typewriter at home. My brother and I would go on and play with it and make up little stories. And the funniest part of that was the misspelled words. It's like, oh, we created a new word. Isn't this funny? Ha, ha, ha. So that kind of got my imagination started in that direction. And I read, through school and in high school. The first book I ever read was Jungle Book by Kipling. I think I was in 5th grade and I got ambitious. But I read all the, Frankenstein, Dracula, H.G. Wells, that stuff. And then I discovered Kurt Vonnegut. And it's kind of an eye-opener. It's like, wow, you can do this with books? He was saying stuff that other people were only thinking. I opened my eyes to what was possible. But I didn't write back then. I didn't write until 2004 when my wife got leukemia, and then it was as therapy to cheer myself up by creating characters that were worse off than I was.
And just to clarify, eventually she recovered from the leukemia, right?
Yes, she is in remission.
Yeah. Good. That's good news.
Yeah. Now, education, did you graduate from high school and go off to college, or did you go into the Navy after high school?
I was a very mediocre student in high school. I was very unmotivated. School was torture for me. I was one of those kids that got picked on. So any day I could stay home sick was a blessing. We used to take the thermometer. We had an electric blanket. If you put it between the coils of the electric blanket, you can make the temperature go up, but you have to shake it down so it's not something like 106. You have to be reasonable, like 100.1. That would keep me home. So after high school, I did join the Navy. And then after the Navy, I went back to college. It took me 6 years to get a 4-year degree because I partied a lot. But my first year in college, I got straight A's, which was quite a surprise to me because I never did that well before. But the difference was I wanted to be there. It was a choice. It wasn't forced.
Where did you go?
I think that College of Lake County, Illinois. Started out at junior college, and after that I went to Northern Illinois University in DeKalb.
Okay.
Aren't those the Blue Flames or something like that?
DeKalb is the Huskies.
Okay. Well, there's like one of those Illinois schools that's like the one of the smaller ones. I think they're like the Blue Flames or something. I just remember they made the NCAA tournament one year.
Most
so,
likely.
Beem, you want to get a commercial knocked out?
All righty, we can do that. Speaking of the Mac McDowell series.
Now, from Fresh Ink Group and best-selling author Robert G. Williscroft, the Mac McDowell Mission Series. With a security clearance above top secret, Saturation Dive Team Officer in Charge Mac McDowell leads his team into critical Cold War counter-Soviet missions. Watch Mac prove what brave men can achieve under real pressure, the kind that will steal your air and crush the life out of you. In Operation Ivy Bells, it's the summer of 1972 when Mac and his off-the-books Deepwater Espionage Group are conducting a daring undersea wiretapping operation to gather Russian intel and avert World War. Join nuclear submariner Mac McDowell for extreme diving, a battle with giant squid, and more as he risks everything in the most dangerous operation yet. In Operation Icebreaker, Mac McDowell is leading his submarine team for a mission to lay SOSUS arrays under the Arctic ice when they clash with a highly automated Alpha-class Soviet submarine. Overwhelmed by mechanical problems, the Soviet crew abandons their sub near Point Barrow, Alaska. The skipper launches DSR-V-1 Mystic so Mac and his crew can board the empty sub and gather intelligence. The arrival of an even more advanced Soviet sub leads to breathtaking underwater clashes, with the specter of war looming. Will Mac and his crew be sunk by the Soviets, or will they safely return to Alaska, where Mac's new love, Kate, anxiously waits? In Operation Arctic Sting, Mac McDowell and his team capture the abandoned Soviet sub. Piloting their prize through the ice pack to the U.S. East Coast, they must evade or confront other Soviet subs trying to recover the ship or sink it. Breathtaking deep-sea clashes erupt, including hand-to-hand combat with Soviet Morskoy Spetsnaz divers under the ice. Too far from Toothus to escape, the Americans are accosted by a 5-ton orca. Will Mac's ship survive long enough to reach friendly waters, or will the men become just another meal for a deadly whale? The McDowell Mission series by Robert G. Williscroft is available worldwide in jacketed hardcovers, paperbacks, ebooks from Kindle to Nook and Kobo and more, plus exclusive audiobook editions with music and sound effects. The Mac McDowell Mission series is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Take a breath and dive in for thrilling submarine adventures in every Mac McDowell mission.
All right.
A lot of cool animations in that video. You got to get over there to YouTube and check it out. Like it, share it.
Buy the book.
Subscribe,
yeah.
So,
now,
Richard, tell us about your family.
Yeah,
I want to know what happened to the orca.
They made fish sticks out of it.
Yeah.
They battered it with beer cans.
They made necklaces out of the teeth.
Yeah. Family.
Okay. Family. I was the oldest of 5 kids. and I have 2 stepkids of my own right now. So I had a ready-made family when I got married.
That's always good.
And yeah, save the hard part.
Yeah.
So
they're grown?
Yeah, they're grown. They got kids of their own now. So I got 2 stepdaughters that are like 5 and 8, and they're just the cutest things in the world. I'm teaching one of them how to play piano.
Cool.
Yeah, the beginning of Claire de Lune down. Which I'm kind of proud of.
Can't go wrong with Dave, you see.
No. So that's all I have to say about the family part.
Okay.
Except everybody's still alive.
Well, that's good. Yeah, day job. Are you selling enough books to support yourself, or do you work a day job?
I wish. I tried to retire, but I have a day job now, working with disabled veterans, and it's very rewarding. But I've had a wide variety of jobs over my life, starting with the Navy, and then, like you said, warehousing, driving delivery, a variety of desk jobs, admin assistant. I spent 11, after my wife got sick and we got laid off, I spent 11 years doing temp jobs, which gave me, you can say, oh, that's a negative thing. Like being a temp, I got experience with a wide variety of people and businesses and computer applications and things that I never would have got being stuck in one place. And it also gave me fodder for more stories. So I can't complain about that.
Yeah, so
a lot of people.
No, you're
so what are you
fodder.
doing? What are you doing with the veterans?
I'm kind of a purchasing agent for the maintenance department, housekeeping, and the laundry, and I drive them to some of their medical appointments.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like you said, fodder for stories. So, I mean, is this where you come up with your ideas, everyday life? Or is this how I know we'll talk more about your writing later on, but since we're talking about the jobs, this is where you come up with some of your ideas?
Well, it put information into my, I don't know if you call it subconscious or probably subconscious is better than the unconscious, because when I'm unconscious, I'm not really writing too much. Puts the information in, lets it, sit there and percolate, and eventually comes back out as something completely different.
Okay. Yeah, I can relate to that. So what kind of hobbies? Do you have hobbies, other interests when you're not writing, when you're not helping out veterans?
I've been in bands all my life, ever since I got out of the Navy. I got my first bass when I was at Great Lakes because this one guy was moving out and he had a no-name bass guitar and amplifier for $50. I couldn't pass that up. At the time, I was in the graduation band playing trumpet. For every Friday, we'd play for the graduations and stuff, so that was kind of nice. We didn't have to stand watch at 3 in the morning either. So I bought that. I taught myself how to play, listening to Grand Funk and Black Sabbath, early Pink Floyd. Just anything I could get my hands on, just play along and figure out what the notes are, the patterns. Kind of self-taught like that. That was a lot of fun. So I'm still doing that. I'm in a country band right now. I was in the classic for 7 years, but that was a really good band. First band I was in was called Red Sky. And at one point, we were opening up for, the Outlaws, Marshall Tucker, Wishbone Ash. And we're one of those bands that almost made it national, except our guitar player, one of our guitar players, fired our agents and took over himself, kind of stabbed us in the back. And then after that, I said, screw you guys, I quit.
Wow. Yeah, the Outlaws. I saw the Outlaws in concert way back when.
But I think that the way I look at it, that's a good thing, because if I had kept on and we had made it, I'd probably be dead from a drug overdose right now.
One of those party type bands, huh? You guys out partying all the time?
Yeah. So, you're done at the end of the night and you got nothing to show for your money.
So are you composing at all or learning covers?
We had some originals that were pretty good. There was interest in us from Atlantic Records but I found out later it's all water under the bridge now. But I'm still, I write a few songs on the piano now and then, and I play with a band now that does outlaw country. Willie, Waylon, Johnny Cash, all that
good
stuff.
Yeah.
Little Jamie Johnson.
Cool.
That's a lot of fun, and it's a hobby that pays for itself, and it gives me the opportunity to sell books. I usually, when we're taking a break, I'll look around the audience for people that look more intelligent. I'll go approach them and say, "Hey, I got this book."
You ever announce it from the stage?
The lead singer does that for me. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Yeah, and the whole music thing, I mean, it's the same with writing. It's a creative outlet, and that's always good for the brain. We do have some... Go ahead.
I was going to say the guy that runs the band, he gives me creative license, so I can take a country song and kind of make it a little fusion if I want to, depending on my mood. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a couple of comments here on Twitter. Arlena Smith Burris has chimed in. She says, it's wonderful how words and creativity become such a big part of our lives early on. That's quite a reason to start writing. It can be so therapeutic. I'm curious what your first writings were. Added note, I'm glad to hear your wife has survived her battle. So
yes.
You want to answer that question? What were your first writings?
Thank you. The first writing was, like I said, in 2004. My wife was in the hospital. I was at work at my desk, feeling kind of glum. And for some reason, I just started making up this little story on a Word doc instead of working, of course. That I had to kind of crawl into my desk so people wouldn't think I was going crazy. But it was like the funniest thing in the world, the way it struck me. And I shared it with a couple other people there, and they didn't see the amazing humor in it like I did. But then I realized years later that it was really the stress that was laughing. It wasn't silly per se. But that was the first. That's what got me started. I realized what laughter could do and what being in a crazy mood could do.
So, okay, now Joe Conjal had asked a question, but we've already talked about it, so you answered that. And he's got another question. He says, do you incorporate any of your band experiences into your writing?
Not per se, but anybody that wants to look at my book will see it's a very strange conglomeration of stories. A lot of it is autobiographical. It's, and I'll just jump into this now, it's about life in the misty forest. And it's a wide, you have to look at the table of contents, which you can on Amazon, but it's all over the map. Each one's about a page long, and they're all interrelated. So while it looks like a collection of random stories, it's really not. And it took me 18 years to actually complete the whole thing, so a lot of thought went into it.
Well, how many stories are in that book?
It's a little over 90.
Wow. Okay, that's a good number.
So a good time to run another ad, Beam?
Sure. Speaking of Dr. Helen,
managing pain with opioids is a science. Except politics, money, and overzealous law enforcement are denying American patients the relief they so desperately need. Demonizing the best pain reliever we have leads to needless suffering, even suicides, and it drives the rise in deadly street drugs. Helen Burrell gathers and presents the evidence, the intimidation, the raids of clinics, the chilling effect on those very professionals we trust to care for our loved ones and ourselves. She looks hard at the Veterans Administration, Drug Enforcement Agency, Department of Justice, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Chapters include the Suboxone hoax, the wrong arms of the law, and the epidemic of death. Now in hardcover, softcover, and all e-book formats, American Agony is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Read American Agony now, or you might be the next one hurt.
Yeah, that dude's got a great radio voice right there.
Yeah, he does.
Read American Agony Now.
And this book dovetails very nicely with a United States Supreme Court decision this week that granted relief to 2 doctors who had been convicted for overdescribing opioids, which is what the book is about. So
cool.
Keep up with your current events, see what the Supreme Court's been saying about it, and check out Helen's book. There's a video for it in the YouTube Fresh Ink Group channel as well if you want to go check that out.
Yeah. Now, listeners, if you have a question or a comment for tonight's guest, Richard Bell, you can call in 516-453-9902. And if you're listening on your phone or your computer, it's right there on the screen, 516-453-9902. Or chime in on Twitter. Just remember to use hashtag Fresh Ink Group, and we will see it. So let's get some of you in the listening audience to come up with some questions here. Richard, we know you started writing in 2004. What is the evolution of your writing as you over the last almost 20 years now that you've been writing? Are you look any closer to doing novels or anything like that?
When I look at the stories that I wrote in their original form, I cringe because they, compared to what they are today, I wouldn't publish the originals. They're too, I wouldn't say stupid, but immature, unprofessional, unpolished, goofy, haphazard.
I think we've all been there.
Most of my time has been spent actually editing and putting in some nice alliteration, crafting each paragraph, combining things, eliminating things. I dropped 2 stories at one point because they didn't fit in with Misty Forest, and just crafting it like you'd make a pottery or do a picture or a symphony. The book is kind of like a symphony, in fact. Each story is a different series of notes, all making a beautiful whole. This book really is unlike, I would say, anything people have ever read before, unless you consider a cross between Aesop's Fables and the Brothers Grimm, or Garrison Keillor on mushrooms. One reviewer said that.
So what's your process when you were working on this book, and as you continue to work on future projects? I mean, do you set goals each day? Do you have a certain place that you write, certain time of day? Do you turn around 3 times and stand on 1 foot before you sit down in front of the keyboard? What's your process?
One of my processes was waking up in the middle of the night and thinking of one word to change to a different word, writing it down and going back to sleep. I don't know if you guys have done that.
I have.
But the process was pretty much reading it and then letting it mull around in my mind and then poking at it, leaving it alone for a while, poke at it some more with a stick, and then kind of let the characters themselves kind of dictate where they want to go at the same time. But I didn't have any set time that I made myself sit down. When I was I did a magazine column with these stories for about 8 years, a monthly column. So I did have a deadline. And I noticed that when I got closer to the deadline, I didn't have anything. Sometimes the stress would kind of help me create something because it was stress originally that got me started. So I just kind of dig into the subconscious and see what I could drag out. Sometimes, somebody would say something and I'd think of a twist on it, and I'd write that down and keep a notebook of ideas and take 2 random thoughts and see if I could squeeze them together. That kind of
do you do
any
outlining or taking notes or putting together, some kind of notes or structure or anything like that before you actually write?
No, I didn't do that, but I did use the outline when I tried to determine what order the story should be in. Because with 90-something stories, that was a lot of work because they're kind of have to progress. And the characters in one story will reappear later on in a a different story in kind of an oblique way, and that adds to the continuity. So I would encourage people to, carry a notebook and a pen, and just something strikes you, write it down, save it for later when you can sit down and give it some attention.
Well, what about working with others? I mean, do you show your partially completed work to others? Do you have beta readers? Do you work with editors at all?
I never had that. The only help I ever had was I'd show one to my wife once in a while, and she'd make a face and say, I don't like that ending. So I have a couple of stories where it says at the very end, it says, if you don't like that ending, and then I put on a different ending. Soften it up a little bit.
So what sort of fan reaction are you getting, like feedback from your work through like reviews or people reaching out to you, maybe saying something to you on social media?
There's some people that really, really love it, that understand where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to say. There are some reviews from people who looked at it like it's just another book and tried to sit down and read it like it was an actual book, which it's not. It's a series of short stories. Each one's like a little meal that you have to read it, let it digest a little bit before you go on to the next one. So the people that gave it 3 stars are usually the ones that tried to read through it nonstop and got frustrated because it didn't fit the mold of a regular book. And they actually say in their reviews that that was a mistake, that they should have taken the time. But I guess they had other books to get to, and they wanted to hurry through it. But so I've had people come up to me, at gigs and stuff and say, this book is amazing. There's one reviewer on Amazon that said it was shockingly amazing. I don't know where she is, but I love her. She got it.
Cool. Beem, you want to roll another?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a quick tweet in here. Joe Conjo, he said, Mark? Well, there's no Mark here. Mark's not here. I think he meant to say Richard. Are there any particular humor writers that help shape your style of humor in your books?
Dave's not here, man.
Dave's not here.
Yes, we're all middle-aged.
I think it goes back to Kurt Vonnegut. He was one of my favorites. Robert Benchley. I've been reading a book of his over and over again, if you know who he is.
Yeah.
I think I was heavily influenced by the Dick Van Dyke Show when I was a kid.
That's
I wanted to be a comedy writer.
You like that episode where he explained to the classroom full of kids how to write comedy? That was a great episode.
Yeah. And I think it was more, not so much as what I read as what I saw on TV. Another great one was Jonathan Winters. Oh, I loved him.
Oh, he was brilliant.
He had his own show for a while, and there was one skit. He told his wife to get away from the window because an astronomer lived across the street.
All right.
Was, and the Marx Brothers, of course.
Oh.
Definitely
you can put on a Marx
yeah.
Brothers movie, and I'll talk along with the dialogue. I've got it memorized at some of them.
Cool. All right, we're going to do another commercial. You like tacos? You like chicken wings? You like gourmet French food? They sell this stuff in food trucks nowadays. And A.K. Wingler has put together a book and is working on a series of books about this. And here's the commercial for that.
With good jobs so hard to find, especially in rapidly expanding Florida, owning your own food truck could be the best option. It's the least expensive startup, and you can be fully operational in mere months. The rules and regulations can be a bit complex, and no single source has offered all the answers. Until now. How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida by food truck veteran A.K. Wingler is the step-by-step guide that takes you from good idea to great success. Sure, it's hard work, but exciting, mobile, flexible, and highly profitable. And you get to be your own boss and set your own hours. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, this book tells you how and where to make money in this exploding independent industry. Grab your copy in laminated hardcover, glossy softcover, or any of the major ebook formats at retailers worldwide. Even if you're just curious for now, this guide is the best way to discover if a food truck business is right for you.
All right. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah, she's working on. She's working on one for Georgia right now. So.
Has somebody come up with pizza? Has somebody come up with pizza on a stick?
Pizza on a stick. Pizza on a stick. Yeah. All right. Let's check over here on Twitter. Anything going on here? Yeah. Joe Concho says, sorry about that, Richard. I was listening to Meet the Author podcast earlier, and Mark was our guest. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we just had a little fun with that, Joe.
Okay.
So, Richard.
No harm, no foul.
Life seemed good, but a collection of quirky stories. We've kind of talked a little bit about it. Tell us what some of these stories are about.
Okay. I got the book right here. I can go to the table of contents. It starts out, of course, with the story that I spent the most time on called My Pet Spud. And it's about finding a potato that's been hiding in the pantry, and it's got little buds called eyes all over it. So I pluck out them until there's two left that look like real eyes, and the potato becomes conscious and connects to my mind and starts telling me what to do, and then we get more potatoes, and then we're going to take over the world, and then things don't end so well. And then a couple of stories later, he comes up from the ground where I buried him, and a recreation of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. He's got a laser death beam out of the top of his head, and that doesn't end well for him. There's stories about little aliens the size of fleas. There's a porcupine named Timmy who gets a spell put on him and thinks he's a medical doctor and goes around giving prostate exams.
Two other animals?
Yeah, other animals.
This is all anthropomorphized animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a grilled cheese sandwich that comes to life and doesn't want to be eaten. There's several stories that are adventures with me and tinfoil hats and laser beams. The rabbit and the owl. The rabbit and the owl are fighting over a beehive that they want to eat the bees. Cinder Vampire, which is a takeoff of Cinderella, but she's a vampire. Life on Mars. Mars is being colonized by mice. The original story is called Some Party. Some Party, where a rabbit, a cow, and a tiger feature prominently. There's several stories at the end about Santa Claus. There's a parody of Christmas Carol. There's a ripoff of Edgar Burroughs' Naked Lunch called Naked Christmas.
Richard, you had said something or previously when we talked about these having meaning. You know, you're trying to say something, have a point in them and stuff like that. Can you give us some examples of that? Like, what would a Christmas story parody? What are you doing with a Christmas story parody to make a statement or have some meaning or something? Or any of the others as an example.
Let me see. Let me open one up here.
It's like, obviously fables, the whole point of a fable is to have, a meaning in there that you learn a little lesson or observe something about life or whatever.
Yeah, well, basically it's like don't take things at face value. Don't judge people for how they appear. Look deeper than what you see because there's things going on. And I don't want to give a lot of it away, but like Taking Over the World, there's a story about how I use a synthesizer music to try to take over the world, and it backfires on me. And it says, I'm starting to wonder, do I really want to be in control of the whole world? I have enough problems of my own without having to make decisions for a bunch of mindless followers. What if I cause something terrible to happen? I'm afraid to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like little observations like that are just kind of stuck in there, and it's kind of like a. Go ahead.
Now, each of these stories, you say they kind of tie together?
Definitely. Each one of them is connected to another one, that's connected to another one, that's connected to another one.
Well, how are they connected? Characters overlapping, or situation, or setting, or
the characters and the settings. Yep.
Okay.
Like the porcupine is in several stories. The potato and the guy that has the potato appears later on in the book. There's 2 references to guys wearing plaid golf pants. And the aluminum foil, of course. And then there's...
Can't forget the aluminum foil.
There's one of my favorite stories is called The Gloomy Bird, about 2 brothers that are carried off by this giant vulture at the end of the book. And they're the smart ones. Everybody else in town talks with this, quaint accent. And then at the very end, the mayor sees them flying off over the horizon and says to the council, "Oh, well, I never did like them smart alecky kids, I tells you that." So a lot of it is surreal, a lot of it is dark humor, and it came from, a place of pain when I was trying to deal with beating depression and cheering myself up by taking that depression and turning it on its head and laughing at it.
That's a good approach.
All right. Now, what have you done to market this book? I mean, have you done anything like book trailers, or obviously doing podcasts and things like that? But is there anything else that you've done to market this to get people to know that it's out there?
I've put it. I've been on several radio programs besides this one locally. I've put it in local bookstores. I've put it in several libraries in the area. I marketed at my gigs with the band. I've been in several larger bookstores around here doing signings. That was before COVID shut all of them down. So I'm hoping that they're going to let me start doing that again.
So how did you publish the book?
Self-published. Did all of it myself. I did all the editing myself, too. And for people that want advice doing editing, before you pay somebody, put it on a Word document, and it has this feature where the Word document will actually read it back to you out loud. I caught several mistakes that way. So that's very useful.
Now, when you say self-published, you're talking about uploading your files like through Amazon's KDP platform or some other way?
Yes. I started out with a program, with a site called Smashwords.
Yeah.
And because they let me change, revisions as much as I want without charging me. And then when I thought it was halfway decent, I put it on Kindle. And then I kept changing it for the next couple of years, too, before I put it on Ingram Spark. Now, if I want to change it on Ingram Spark, they're going to charge me $25 each time I want to, make a bunch of changes. So that kind of convinced me that, okay, better get it right this time because otherwise it's going to start getting expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you reach a point to where how much are you going to keep changing a book as opposed to working on your next book,
Yeah. My wife said, my wife told me, you're never going to finish that thing. I had to prove her wrong.
Now, the book cover, your book cover, who designed that? How did that concept come about?
That I had an idea that I wanted, put into a picture. I found a graphic artist from my old school, NIU, and contacted her, and she worked with me. And the first was way too much like a children's book, and I said, no, you got to darken it up, otherwise people are going to think it's a kid's book, and it's really not. There's, stories that appeal to, they sound like kids' stories, but when you get into it, you see there's some adult themes that you really want young kids to read. But having said that, there is no, graphic sex, and there's no swear words, so it's kind of a clean book. I wanted it that way, like Red Skelton would have wanted it. If you're familiar with his old quote, he says, "Don't do blue," he said.
Yeah.
So it's You could read this to your mom and you wouldn't be embarrassed. She might be, but you wouldn't be.
All right.
So you want to roll another ad, Beam?
Yeah, we can throw another one in here. Here's one that I edited, so I can tell you. This is an excellent collection of short stories by Patricia A. Guthrie. This one is Eerie Charms, the short story.
Lucifer loses his day job, so he starts his own gig. A little girl's tantrum destroys her toys, but will they lash out in revenge? Can a miserable housewife find a new life for herself in a tear-stained old painting? Eerie Charms of the short story, fantasy, mystery, and horror includes a snake deciding the fate of the world, a slot machine choosing life's winners and losers, a malevolent fairy dancing men to their deaths, a couple desperate to escape a train station, the dog show judge facing death, and more great tales. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Eerie Charms is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. Patricia A. Guthrie offers a cauldron of eerie delights that will please, delight, and yet terrify you.
Yes, those are spooky stories, but there's humor in there, and it's she's a wonderful storyteller. Patricia A. Guthrie is. That was fun working on that book.
Sounds like the Twilight Zone a little bit.
So Richard, what have you got on your to be watched list these days? Any movies, TV shows, anything like that have caught your attention?
I like
or
YouTube.
Ones you've been watching?
I like YouTube because outside of the commercials, you can really choose a wide variety of stuff. There's some programs where they take a camera and they put it on the front of a train, and they drive. The train goes through the mountains in Switzerland or Norway, and it's really, really nice. And you're always watching to say, okay, what's over the next hill? Am I going to see any wildlife? Something going to crash into the train, but it never does. I could watch those for hours. It's kind of a travelogue, you could say.
Yeah.
I like the show Cops. I like seeing people getting busted, except for the marijuana bust. That's totally unfair. They should leave those people alone.
Yes, they should.
I agree. Yeah, I watch a lot of YouTube as well. Like you said, there's a wide variety. So, man, I just pick something and bounce from that to this to that, and a lot of cool music stuff on YouTube as well.
Yeah. I like some of the classical music, some of the science stuff, some of the nature stuff, the weather, the world's greatest tsunamis, that kind of thing.
So you're not a Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, any of those kinds of programming?
Not really. I have a few that I've watched, like The Orville. That was a good series. The
Orville?
The Orville, the name of it's kind of a parody of Star Trek.
That's
a spaceship named the Orville. Oh, you got to look that up. And there was the Tick, the superhero called the Tick.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Was that live action, Patrick Warburton, or was it animated?
Live.
Yeah.
I like the old show. What's that called? Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp.
That's right.
Know your age.
I like that one because, if somebody gets smart with him, he'll smack him right in the face, and he's the sheriff. He can get away with it. So it's like instant justice.
Well, I've had a bit of a stretch here because I like to head down the road to the local movie theater and catch new movies, and lately it's all superheroes. It's all superheroes, and I'm really just not into the superhero movies.
I'm not either.
Tonight I'm going to sneak out and see the Ethan Hawke movie, the Black Phone or the Black Telephone, something like that. So I'm looking forward to that. That is a nice horror thriller.
Between all the Batmans and the Marvel universe, they've kind of, I think, peaked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Martin Scorsese, that's what he was saying here a few months back. He said they're not making movies anymore. They're making Marvel movies. And he was saying that he when he was shopping his masterpiece, The Irishman, around, he said he couldn't get any of the studios to take it. They weren't interested. They wanted some superhero Marvel stuff, and so he had to take it to Netflix, and they gave him the money for it. And this ended up winning awards, and it's a fantastic movie. It's Martin Scorsese doing the gangster stuff that he does so well. But the cool thing about him is he doesn't repeat what he does. He's got these stories that are based in truth. So they're real stories, and they're run through his lens, and they're always cool.
The studios want a quick, easy buck.
Yeah, and they like the franchises. They want something where the first movie makes a buttload of money, then it's a sure bet the second one will too, and then the third one. So that's how you get them financed.
Just this morning, I saw, watching the news this morning, Woody Allen has announced that his next movie, his 50th movie, is going to be his last one. He's done. He said there's no thrill in it anymore. They're not making movies, like he makes anymore, and nobody's interested in these kind of, not nobody in terms of audience, but studios. So even a master filmmaker like Woody Allen is having a problem with that. And that's too bad. But he said he's still going to keep writing. He's going to write, other people can put these movies together if they want. So
one thing that I've learned in my 6+ decades too, though, is that every time you get into a situation where you're bemoaning the loss of something, there's always a replacement. I mean, we're talking here like, the classic, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, not as likely to be made today as it would have back in the 70s when it was made. But on the other hand, Better Call Saul, 6 seasons of it would not have been made back then, never would have been on TV, and would have never had a chance in hell of even existing.
True.
And it's way too long to make into a movie to try to put into theatrical release. So yeah, we're losing a lot of the kind of genre kinds of movies that came out into theatrical release in the old days, but look what it's being replaced with. I mean, there's tons of quality programming out there, and there is no better time for a production company to be trying to sell a series when you got Netflix and
Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, but all these companies like Hulu and Netflix, they're all competing with each other for these projects now. So it's a good time to be a producer.
This is true because, even like, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, that's AMC. AMC is, they've been top of their game putting these very series out. And it's just, like you said, Stephen, this is something you wouldn't have seen on TV, 40 years ago.
No, not a chance. So we lose, but we gain. It's just a matter of shifting and adapting and stuff. But Richard, maybe you'll next time you're in Alabama, we'll go see The Black Telephone together.
Okay.
So Beem, you want to run one more commercial, and then let's ask Richard about what he's working on these days and what we can look forward to from him.
All right.
Now, from popular Christian romance author Jeannie Sharp, A Chance to Choose. The life of a baker had been his dream since college, but a deep void surfaces every morning when Ben looks at himself in the mirror. Why at 29 has he not been able to find the woman of his dreams? His boss, and owner of Camden Bake Shop, Chloe, keeps pestering him about dating. Then, an old fling mails him a plane ticket to London. Except turmoil draws him back home to Virginia. Does Ben get the chance to go to London? With 3 women suddenly interested, will Ben ever be able to choose? A Chance to Choose is book 3 of the Second Chances series by Christian romance and children's book author Jeannie Sharp. A Chance to Choose is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, paperback, and all ebook formats, from Kindle to Kobo to Nook and Google Play. A Chance to Choose is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group. Grab your copy of A Chance to Choose today.
All right. Grab your copy today.
So what's next?
So Richard.
Yes.
Yeah, what's next? Any new
I
projects
haven't been writing
working
as
on?
much lately. I've been working on getting the word out about this book. But I did have something that the last couple of years that I was doing my magazine column, each story was The Adventures of Scooter and Biff. And these are two 10-year-old boys who live in a trailer park, alcoholic mom, and who have an enemy in the form of a giant T-Rex that only they can see. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of goofy. It's not really ready for publication because the stories are, since they were in the magazine, they were very episodic. So each chapter starts with, it's morning. They ask their mom if they could have some cookies from the cookie jar, and she says no. And their life goal is to get those cookies while avoiding the T-Rex. So I think it's a good idea, and one day it might come to fruition, but it's on the back burner right now. Because somebody told me it was too episodic. I have to try to find a way to make it flow better instead of being, so staccato.
Well, is the T-Rex in that just like a device, or is it an anthropomorphized character? Like, do they interact with him, like Calvin and Hobbes, for example, where the tiger,
yes.
Is acts human and talks and all that? So they interact with the T-Rex. Well,
yeah,
what
like
10-year-old boys wouldn't like a story like that, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
And just the whole concept of these two boys living in a trailer park with an alcoholic mother, that right there is a great motivational factor for creating stories around that. You can write some new stuff.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Richard, too, you're putting a lot of emphasis and effort into trying to market and get the word out about your first book. Sometimes the easiest way to do that is to be talking about your second book at the same time. And then you get those people interested in going back, well, what else did this guy write? So a lot of times it's easier to sell more copies of the first book when number 3 comes out than it was back when you only had the one to sell. So we're trying to encourage you here. Keep it moving because it's a process and it builds.
Earlier today on Twitter, I saw this woman author. She had tweeted out, she said she was working on her second book. She said, why am I writing my second book when nobody's buying the first book? And I tweeted her back. I said, because you're building a foundation. You're building your brand. This is how you do it. You don't just throw that one book out and focus on that. You got to keep coming, get those stories out of your head. And when you've got 4 or 5 of them, you've got a brand name. So
Yeah, and there's exceptions like To Kill a Mockingbird, but for the most part, if you look back, an author's big book, the one that really took off is rarely the first one.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just takes a while for the author to find his niche and get his voice and get those skills up and find that audience. And then after that, word of mouth.
Like with Stephen King, technically Carrie was his first published work and it took off. But he had written 2 novels prior to that he shopped around and nobody wanted them. This third one took off, and the third one, Carrie, didn't even take off until it hit paperback. And when it hit paperback back in the day, that was the cheap version, and that's when it just took off. And then they made a movie out of it, and that dude hasn't looked back.
Yeah.
So Richard, you have given us some advice to authors as we've been talking today. You got any more?
Just keep at it. Don't get discouraged. Even if you have to put it aside for a couple of months, always have in mind that you want to come back to it. Because I tell people that my book was written by several different people through the years, all of them me. From different, points of view and different times, and growing as an author and growing as a person, you come up with more stuff to add in.
And let me be the first to say you're a great group of guys, Richard.
I would like to encourage everybody to go on Amazon and you can read some of it for free and see what you think, and if it tickles your funny bone, consider making a purchase. And some of the money does go to cancer research. I should add that in.
Well, I may go over there after I get done here and grab a copy. I've got a huge to-be-read list, so it may be a while before I get to it, but I'll go grab a copy, I think.
Well, it's the kind of book that you just want to read like maybe 4 or 5 a day, and you can do that while you're reading other books.
All right. I'll keep that in mind.
They're very short. Yeah. Makes a good bathroom book, everybody.
Okay.
So, Richard, how do people find you? If people want to find you on the internet or get in touch with you or learn more about you, where are you out there?
They can stand on the roof and yell my name really loud, and if I hear them, I'll say, what? But the book does have a Facebook page, so if they look for Life's Been Good But on Facebook, they'll find it and they can message me if they like. That's pretty much it. I'm not giving out my house address just yet.
So
no, you don't want
no
to
blog or website or any other kind of stuff, just Facebook?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. We're going to recommend that you expand your social media a little bit for your marketing purposes. Start to build some Twitter following and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as always, anybody who's listening who wants to try to get a hold of Richard and isn't seeing an obvious way to do that, we have a contact form at freshinkgroup.com. Just send us a note. We'll make sure we get a hold of Richard for you.
And Richard, I just purchased your book on Kindle, so it's waiting for me to read.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Well, it's been great having you on here today, Richard.
Well, thank you guys, and it's a privilege to be on the 100th episode.
Yeah, 100.
Yeah. Congratulations to you guys.
Now I'm tingling again.
That's a milestone.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
And
because when we started this, I'm just thinking we're going week to week and see how it goes. And here we are almost 2 years later in 100 episodes. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And then next week for episode 101, we've got Annette Rochelle Avon coming. And after that?
Yeah. After that, we've got a Fresh Ink Group author, Janelle A. Jordan, author of Still Not Enough, Minority Millennials in the Workplace. So we're looking forward to introducing you to her. And after that...
The week after that, we've got author Paul Hollis.
Paul Hollis. Then after that, we've got author Caleb Hurdle, and he's an interesting character, so we'll be introducing you to him as well. And after that...
Author Patrick Parker. That would be about episode 1, 2, 3, 4, about 105, I think, that we'd be hitting with Paul Parker. So we're looking forward to that.
We got them lined up for you, so keep listening, everybody, and you're going to find new favorite authors. I'm almost sure.
Yep.
Of it, so.
Listen, audience, we appreciate your support. Thanks for spreading the word. Go check out those old episodes in the archive. And we look forward to having you next week.
Before we go, we got a couple more comments here on Twitter. Let me go scroll down and see how many. All right. So we got Verwayne Greenhow. He said, I used to watch Wyatt Earp all the time when I was a kid. Verwayne, you were a kid? I thought you were, manufactured as an older man with the life you've lived.
He's not talking about the TV show. He used to watch Wyatt Earp.
The real Wyatt Earp. And Stacy Troilo says, don't you think the same is true of fiction as movies? People prefer genre over literary and series rather than standalones. It's about maximizing money and revisiting characters and story worlds they know and love. Yeah, I think you got a point there, Stacy.
Yeah, although I do like the good standalone movie.
So do I.
There's a lot of them that I hate to see them try to come up with that sequel because it's like you made the perfect movie. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
I don't want a sequel to The Road to Perdition, No. Man, that movie's done. That story's told,
Yeah.
But, Stacy, you're right. Series is where the money's always going to be because once you get somebody hooked, it's easy to bring them back.
Yeah. And Joe Conjul said, enjoyed the show tonight as always, and thanks to Richard Bell. And Stacy Troilo says again, congratulations on 100. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy.
Fantastic. So, all right. And
Richard,
that does it for number 100.
Yeah, Richard, keep us informed. Next book comes out, we'll put it in the newsletter, maybe have you back on and keep our listeners informed. So everybody, Richard Bell now, the book. Get out there and check it out. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody next week. Take care and have a safe 4th of July.
Bye.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.